Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you went in there? Or maybe you've struggled to recall a familiar name, the kind of name that used to roll right off your tongue without a second thought. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something important: you are not alone. These little moments of forgetfulness can be frustrating, even a little scary. We start to wonder, is this normal? Is this just what getting older feels like? Or is it something more? For years, many of us believed that memory loss was just an unavoidable part of aging. We thought it was like gray hair or wrinkles, something we just had to accept. But here's the exciting news that researchers have discovered in the last decade: that's simply not true. While aging does bring changes to our brains, the rate at which our memory declines is something we have a surprising amount of control over. And one of the most powerful tools we have isn't a prescription drug or a complicated medical procedure. It's sitting right there on your plate at every single meal. Today, we're going to talk about something called the Mind Diet. It's not a fad diet. It's not about starving yourself or counting every single calorie. The Mind Diet is a way of eating that was created by researchers at Rush University Medical Center, specifically to protect the brain as we age. Studies have shown that people who follow this diet closely can significantly lower their risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. In fact, even people who followed it moderately well saw a real benefit. It's about eating more of the foods that nourish your brain cells and protect them from damage, while cutting back on the foods that can harm them. In this video, we're going to break it all down for you in a simple, practical way. We'll go over the 7 foods you should try to eat more often, the real brain superstars, and the 5 foods you'll want to limit or avoid. And I promise, by the end, you'll have a clear roadmap for your next grocery trip without feeling like you have to turn your life upside down. Let's start with the good stuff. Let's talk about the foods you can invite into your kitchen that will actually help keep your mind sharp. Brain food number 1, leafy greens. When researchers studied the diets of older adults with the sharpest memories, one food stood out above almost all the others: leafy green vegetables. We're talking about spinach, kale, collard greens, Swiss chard, and even simple romaine lettuce. These aren't exotic foods. They're humble, affordable, and incredibly powerful. Why are they so good for your brain? Leafy greens are packed with nutrients like vitamin E, folate, and vitamin K. Vitamin E is a powerful antioxidant. Think of antioxidants as your brain's personal bodyguards. They patrol your brain cells, looking for harmful molecules called free radicals that can damage and destroy those cells over time. Folate helps with neurotransmitter function, and vitamin K is involved in producing a fatty substance that insulates your brain cells and helps them communicate faster. So, how can you eat more of them? It doesn't have to mean eating a giant salad every single day, although that's a great option. Maybe you add a handful of fresh spinach to your morning scrambled eggs. It wilts down to almost nothing. Or you could have a simple side of sautéed kale with garlic and olive oil at dinner. The goal is to aim for at least 6 servings a week. That's less than 1 serving a day. A serving is just 1 cup of raw greens or half a cup of cooked greens. It's a small change with a potentially huge payoff for your memory. Brain food number 2, berries. Now, if leafy greens are the bodyguards, berries are like the special ops team for your brain. In the Mind Diet, not all fruits are created equal. While all fruits are healthy in their own way, berries get the spotlight. Specifically, we're talking about blueberries and strawberries. The research here is fascinating. Studies have shown that women who ate at least 1 serving of blueberries and 2 servings of strawberries each week had a slower rate of cognitive decline, by as much as 2.5 years. Think about that. Just by enjoying some berries, they effectively made their brains act younger. What makes berries so special? They contain high levels of compounds called flavonoids, particularly one called anthocyanin. This is what gives berries their deep blue, red, and purple colors. These flavonoids are excellent at reducing inflammation in the brain and helping brain cells communicate with each other. They also help clear out toxic proteins that are linked to memory loss. The best part? Berries are a treat. They're nature's candy. You can toss a handful of frozen blueberries into a smoothie, or top your oatmeal or yogurt with fresh strawberries. If fresh berries are expensive or out of season, frozen berries are just as nutritious, sometimes even more so, because they're picked and frozen at peak ripeness. Aim for at least 2 servings a week. It's a delicious way to protect your mind. Brain food number 3, nuts. Let's move on to a perfect snack. Nuts are small, portable, and packed with brain-boosting power. The Mind Diet encourages eating nuts regularly, and for good reason. They're rich in healthy fats, fiber, and antioxidants. Different nuts offer different benefits. Walnuts, for example, are shaped a little like a brain, and it turns out that's quite fitting. They are an excellent source of an omega-3 fatty acid called ALA, which is great for brain health. Almonds are high in vitamin E, that antioxidant we talked about that protects cell membranes from damage. Even peanuts, which are technically legumes, fit in here and provide a good dose of niacin, which studies have linked to a lower risk of Alzheimer's. The key is to eat them in moderation, because they are calorie-dense. A small handful, about a quarter of a cup, makes a perfect daily serving. You don't need to eat a huge bag. Just a small handful as a snack, or sprinkle some chopped walnuts over your salad or oatmeal. They add a nice crunch and give your brain a steady supply of healthy fats and protective nutrients. So, we've covered 3 powerful brain foods already. Leafy greens to protect your cells, berries to clear out toxins and improve communication, and nuts to provide healthy fats and vitamin E. These are foods you can start adding to your shopping list today. They're simple, they're delicious, and they're working for you every time you eat them. But a diet isn't just about what you add. It's also about what you choose to leave out. And some of the foods that are common in a standard diet can actually work against your brain health, undoing some of that good work. Now that we've built a strong foundation with the foods to eat, let's turn our attention to the foods that might be quietly harming your memory, starting with something many of us eat every single day. We've talked about 3 wonderful foods that can actively protect your brain: leafy greens to shield your cells, berries to clear out inflammation, and nuts to provide healthy fats. These are the kinds of foods you want to see on your plate as often as possible. But now, we need to have an honest conversation about the other side of the equation. Because you can eat all the spinach and blueberries in the world, but if your diet is still filled with foods that harm your brain, you're fighting an uphill battle. Let's start with one of the biggest culprits, something that shows up on tables across the country at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The first food to avoid: butter and margarine. Now, I know this one might sting a little. Butter makes everything taste better, doesn't it? It's rich, it's creamy, and it's been a staple in our kitchens for generations. But here's what the research shows: the Mind Diet strongly recommends limiting butter and margarine to less than 1 tablespoon per day. And the reason comes down to something called saturated fat. Butter is high in saturated fat, and a diet high in saturated fat has been linked to higher rates of Alzheimer's disease. It's not that a little bit of butter now and then is going to cause immediate harm. But when it becomes a daily habit, butter on your toast, butter on your vegetables, butter in your baking, it adds up. Now, I'm not here to tell you to give up flavor. The key is finding smarter alternatives. Instead of butter, the Mind Diet encourages using olive oil as your primary cooking fat and spread. Extra virgin olive oil is rich in monounsaturated fats and antioxidants that are actually good for your brain. You can drizzle it over roasted vegetables, use it in salad dressings, or even dip your bread in it with a little sprinkle of herbs. It's a simple swap that replaces something harmful with something healing. And if you absolutely love the taste of butter on your morning toast, try using just a thin scrape instead of a thick layer. Or better yet, mash a little avocado on that toast. It gives you that creamy texture along with healthy fats that your brain will thank you for. Brain food number 4, beans. Now, let's shift back to the positive. Because while we're cutting back on butter, there's a food group we want to invite to the table much more often: beans. Lentils, chickpeas, black beans, kidney beans, all of them are stars of the Mind Diet. Here's why beans are so good for your aging brain. First, they're an incredible source of complex carbohydrates. That means they release energy slowly, giving your brain a steady stream of fuel throughout the day without the blood sugar spikes that can come from refined carbs. Second, they're packed with fiber, which is great for your gut health. And researchers are discovering more and more that a healthy gut is closely linked to a healthy brain. Third, they're high in B vitamins, which are essential for brain function and can help lower levels of a compound called homocysteine, which has been linked to cognitive decline. The Mind Diet recommends eating beans at least 4 times a week. And they're so versatile. You can add chickpeas to a salad for extra protein and texture. You can make a simple lentil soup that warms you up on a cool day. You can use black beans in tacos or as a side dish with rice. Canned beans make this incredibly easy. Just rinse them to remove some of the sodium, and they're ready to go. They're affordable, they're filling, and they're working hard to keep your mind sharp. The second food to avoid, cheese. Now, this next one might be even harder than the butter conversation. Because cheese is everywhere. It's on pizza, in casseroles, on sandwiches, and many of us grew up with the idea that a meal isn't complete without a little cheese. But the Mind Diet suggests limiting cheese to less than 1 serving per week. Just like butter, cheese is high in saturated fat. And while a little cheese now and then won't ruin your brain health, making it a daily habit can contribute to the kind of inflammation and arterial damage that affects not just your heart, but your brain too. I want to be really clear about this. The researchers aren't saying you can never enjoy a grilled cheese sandwich or a sprinkle of Parmesan on your pasta ever again. What they're saying is that cheese should move from being a daily food to an occasional treat. Think of it as something you have on special occasions, not something that shows up at every meal. So, what do you do if you're craving that creamy, savory flavor? Nutritional yeast is a fantastic option. It has a cheesy, nutty flavor, and you can sprinkle it on popcorn, pasta, or vegetables. It's low in fat and often fortified with B vitamins. Or you can experiment with cashew-based sauces that give you that creamy texture without the dairy. It's about finding new ways to enjoy your food while protecting your brain for the long haul. Brain food number 5, whole grains. Now, let's balance that out with another food to add to your regular rotation, whole grains. This one is simple. When you're choosing bread, pasta, or rice, opt for the whole grain version. That means whole wheat bread instead of white bread, brown rice instead of white rice, oatmeal instead of sugary breakfast cereals, and quinoa or barley as delicious alternatives. Why are whole grains so important? They're another source of those steady, slow-release carbohydrates that your brain needs to function at its best. Your brain runs on glucose, but it needs that glucose delivered steadily, not in a rush. Whole grains also provide fiber, which helps with that steady release, and they're packed with vitamins and minerals. The Mind Diet recommends at least 3 servings of whole grains every day. A serving could be 1 slice of whole grain bread, half a cup of cooked oatmeal, or half a cup of cooked brown rice or quinoa. It's not hard to hit that goal. Maybe you have oatmeal for breakfast, a sandwich on whole wheat bread for lunch, and a small side of brown rice with dinner. You've done it. And here's a little tip. When you're shopping, look for the word whole as the first ingredient. If it says enriched wheat flour or multigrain, it might not be the healthy choice you think it is. Real whole grains still have all parts of the grain intact, including the bran and the germ, which is where all the good stuff is stored. So, let's take a breath and look at where we are. We're adding leafy greens, berries, nuts, beans, and whole grains to our plates. We're swapping butter for olive oil, and we're moving cheese from a daily staple to an occasional treat. These are changes that feel manageable, don't they? They're not about deprivation. They're about making better choices most of the time. But we still have more to cover. There are 2 more powerful brain foods to add to your diet, and 3 more common foods that research says you'll want to limit. One of those foods to avoid is something many of us have been told is healthy for years, and the truth about it might surprise you. We'll dive into that next. We've been building a complete picture of how to feed your brain for the long haul. We've talked about adding leafy greens, berries, nuts, beans, and whole grains to your regular routine. We've also talked about cutting back on butter and cheese, swapping them for healthier options like olive oil. These are the kinds of changes that add up over time, protecting your memory and keeping your mind sharp well into your later years. But we still have a few more important pieces to add to the puzzle. There are 2 more foods you'll want to eat regularly, and 3 more common foods that the research says you should limit. And one of those foods to avoid might surprise you, because for years, many of us were told it was actually good for us. Let's start with the final 2 brain-boosting foods you'll want to welcome to your table. Brain food number 6, fish. Now, when I say fish, I'm not talking about fried fish sticks or battered fish sandwiches. I'm talking about fish that's baked, broiled, or grilled. The Mind Diet recommends eating fish at least once a week, and the reason comes down to something you've probably heard of: omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3s are essential fats that your body cannot make on its own. You have to get them from food. And your brain absolutely loves them. In fact, a large portion of your brain's gray matter is made up of these healthy fats. They help build cell membranes in the brain, and they have powerful anti-inflammatory effects. The fish that are highest in these beneficial omega-3s are often called fatty fish. Think of salmon, mackerel, sardines, trout, and tuna. These are the superstars. But even if you're not a fan of those, any fish is better than no fish. The goal is simply to make fish a regular part of your weekly meals. If you're worried about mercury or other contaminants, don't let that stop you from eating fish altogether. The benefits of eating fish for your brain far outweigh the very small risks for most people. And if you don't eat fish at all, you can talk to your doctor about a high-quality fish oil supplement. But whenever possible, getting your nutrients from real food is the best way to go. Brain food number 7, poultry. The final food to add to your brain-healthy shopping list is poultry. Chicken and turkey are excellent sources of lean protein, and they fit perfectly into the Mind Diet. The recommendation is to eat poultry at least twice a week. Now, here's the key: when we talk about poultry, we're talking about the white and dark meat, but not the skin. And we're definitely not talking about fried chicken. Baking, roasting, or grilling chicken or turkey breast gives you high-quality protein without the unhealthy fats that come from frying. Why is protein so important for your aging brain? Your brain uses amino acids from protein to create neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that carry signals between your brain cells. Without enough protein, this communication system can slow down. You might feel foggy, tired, or have trouble concentrating. By including lean poultry in your diet a couple of times a week, you're giving your brain the building blocks it needs to keep those messages firing clearly and quickly. So, let's do a quick recap of the foods you want to eat more of. Leafy greens, berries, nuts, beans, whole grains, fish, and poultry. That's your brain-healthy grocery list. 7 simple categories of food that work together to protect your memory, reduce inflammation, and keep your mind sharp. Now, we need to talk about the final 3 foods you'll want to limit. These are the ones that can undo all that good work if you're not careful. The third food to avoid: red meat. This includes beef, pork, lamb, and all the products made from them, like hamburgers, steaks, pork chops, and bacon. The Mind Diet recommends eating no more than 4 servings of red meat per week. And ideally, you'd eat even less than that. Red meat is high in saturated fat, and it's also been linked to inflammation in the body. When you eat a lot of red meat, it can contribute to the kind of chronic inflammation that damages blood vessels, including the tiny blood vessels in your brain. Over time, this can affect your memory and thinking skills. Now, I'm not saying you can never enjoy a good steak again. But think of red meat as an occasional treat, not the centerpiece of your daily meals. When you do eat it, choose lean cuts and keep your portion moderate, about the size of a deck of cards. And on the other days, get your protein from that wonderful list we just covered: poultry, fish, and beans. The fourth food to avoid: fried food. This one might not surprise you, but it's worth saying clearly: fried foods are not your brain's friend. And that includes fried fast food like French fries, fried chicken, fried fish, and even those crispy onion rings. The Mind Diet recommends limiting fried food to less than 1 serving per week, and ideally, even less than that. Here's the problem with fried foods. When you fry food, especially in cheap oils at high temperatures, you create compounds that are highly inflammatory. You also load the food with unhealthy trans fats and saturated fats. All of this contributes to inflammation and oxidative stress in your body, including your brain. Your brain cells are very sensitive to this kind of damage. If you're craving something crispy, there are healthier ways to get that texture. You can roast vegetables in the oven with a little olive oil until they're crispy on the edges. You can air fry foods with minimal oil. Or you can simply enjoy the natural texture of fresh, whole foods. The key is to make fried food a rare exception, not a regular habit. The fifth food to avoid: pastries and sweets. And finally, we come to the last category: pastries and sweets. This includes cookies, cakes, pies, donuts, ice cream, chocolate bars, and just about anything with added sugar. The Mind Diet recommends limiting these to no more than 5 servings per week. And if you can keep it to even less, that's even better. Now, I know this is a tough one. Sweets are comforting. They're tied to happy memories. They're often part of celebrations and family gatherings. But here's the truth about sugar and your brain. When you eat a lot of sugar, it causes spikes in your blood glucose. Over time, these spikes can lead to insulin resistance. And some researchers are now calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes because of the strong link between insulin resistance in the brain and cognitive decline. Sugar also feeds inflammation. And as we've talked about throughout this video, inflammation is one of the biggest enemies of a healthy brain. So, what do? You don't have to give up sweets forever. But you can make smarter choices. When you want something sweet, reach for a bowl of fresh berries. They satisfy that sweet craving while actually helping your brain. If you want baked goods, try making them at home where you can control the amount of sugar. Or save sweets for special occasions, rather than having them every single day. So, there you have it. The complete Mind Diet in one simple framework. 7 foods to eat more of: leafy greens, berries, nuts, beans, whole grains, fish, and poultry. And 5 foods to limit: butter and margarine, cheese, red meat, fried foods, and pastries and sweets. Now, here's the most important thing I want you to take away from this video. You don't have to be perfect. The researchers who developed the Mind Diet found that even people who followed it moderately well saw significant benefits. If you slip up and have a piece of cake or a cheeseburger, that's okay. What matters is what you do most of the time. It's the pattern of your eating habits over weeks and months that shapes your brain health. Start small. Maybe this week, you add a serving of leafy greens to just one meal. Maybe you swap your afternoon cookie for a handful of walnuts. Maybe you use olive oil instead of butter on your vegetables. These tiny changes add up. They compound over time. And years from now, your brain will thank you for every single one of them. I'd love to hear from you. Which of these foods do you already eat regularly? And which one do you think will be the hardest for you to cut back on? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might be just the encouragement someone else needs to make a positive change in their own life. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button. It really does help more people in our community find this information. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We're building a community here focused on living strong, independent, and healthy lives at every age. I have more videos coming on brain health, gentle exercise, and practical tips for aging well, and I don't want you to miss them. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Remember, your brain is the most precious organ in your body, and it's never too late to start taking better care of it. Every meal is an opportunity to nourish your mind and protect your memories for years to come. Here's to your health, your happiness, and your sharpest mind yet. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.